Okay, so Martin's asking, what's the difference between BlackBird and Raven? Quite a lot, quite a bit. So I'm opening up my strategy window here. Okay, so let's take a look at Raven. Simply put, Raven is a free strategy that's included with Bloodhound that allows you to do some initial, very generic backtesting. However, Raven actually is suitable for some traders, and that's all they need. Now, the main limitation of Raven is that you can only submit one profit target and one stop loss. And the stop loss, you can see it does have a trailing, but it's a very simplistic trailing, right? It's just the stop loss trailing is just going to trail by the fixed amount of whatever you set your stop loss to. So if I set my stop loss to, a 10 tick stop loss, then the trailing is simply just going to trail by 10 ticks, right? So, very basic settings here. Let's see, some of the other, Raven can submit a market order or a limit order. It does not submit stop orders. Let's see. So that's kind of the short version of it. It's kind of the quick rundown, right? Raven's just a freebie. It just has some, it's got enough there so that you can at least do some initial backtest results to make sure that your Bloodhound signals are, getting you in the right direction, So, whereas BlackBird, if we pull BlackBird up, if we open up BlackBird, you'll see that BlackBird has an interface much like Bloodhound, which gives you a lot of controls here. So BlackBird has risk management constraints, right? So if you have a minimum risk reward ratio, you can plug that in, and then the trade would be skipped if your risk reward is not met. There's money management controls, right? So this all deals with auto trading. So if you set BlackBird up as an auto trader, you can set up some money management rules. So some of the more common and simple ones to understand here is turn BlackBird off once you've made $500 for the day, or turn BlackBird off if you've lost $300 for the day. Money management rules. It also has this watermark feature here, high watermark, sorry. BlackBird has a scheduler, so it's a lot easier to control when BlackBird is allowed to auto trade during the day. All right, so it's got this a little more, I gotta say, a lot more intuitive than Ninja's session manager to use. So it's kind of like having Bloodhound's time block or time solver built in to BlackBird. And it's just a lot easier to use. You can grab stuff and shrink things up and move them around. Right, so there you go. So you've got a scheduler here that you can use. Kind of the simple things. And probably one of the most powerful thing is BlackBird's order set. Right, so you can submit any kind of entry order that you want here. Right, we'll just do a market order. And of course, profit target, stop loss. But the big thing about BlackBird, is its trailing capability. You can define really advanced trailing rules. So for example, you can attach your stop loss to an indicator. So the one indicator we have built in is NinjaTrader's parabolic SAR. Right, so you could use Ninja's parabolic SAR. Well, parabolic SAR is not Ninja's, but the parabolic SAR that's included with NinjaTrader. So, if you have the Anna Supertrend indicator, of course, you could use that to trail your stop losses. Simply put, you can attach your stop losses to an indicator, so you can have an indicator control where your stop loss trailing goes. But you can do much more. You can use price action. So you can build all kinds of custom trailing rules. You can see there's one here that has a 10 tick stop loss with a break even +1 and then trailing to it as well. So actually, I guess let me select that one. So stop loss have trailing, but you know what? Even your entry orders have trailing. Of course, you can't trail a market order that gets filled instantly, but say you're using a limit order, and the market takes off without you. Well, if you're so inclined, you could build some trailing rules that will, move your limit order to have your limit order kind of trail price as price keeps moving, in the direction that you're trying to go. Well, you could move your limit order, to try and get it closer and closer to price so you can get your order picked up, right? So your entry orders can trail, and even your profit targets have trailing capability here. So, all right, so I just set up a simple 10 tick profit target, but let's say practical example would be, let's say you've got a third profit target that's way out there at 50 ticks, right? Way out there at 50 ticks. Well, if your trade rules are very advanced, and some indicator tells you that the market might be turning against your trade, then if you could build that condition into, say, something like Bloodhound, then you could use a Bloodhound signal to pull your profit target in to hopefully get some sort of a profit target hit before your stop loss gets hit, to try and capture a little more profit there. So but the trailing rules for profit targets use a lot more than a Bloodhound signal. So actually you have all kinds of conditions here that you could look for in BlackBird. But keep in mind, BlackBird is not as powerful as Bloodhound when it comes to amalgamating indicator conditions together. Bloodhound is definitely the king when it looks for indicator conditions, but BlackBird has some simple things that you can do. You can compare price to an indicator. Is price above or below some indicator value? You can even compare one indicator to another indicator. Things like that. Some simple stuff. So, so you can see here that BlackBird has a lot more features, a ton more features than Raven has. So, right, so BlackBird is a lot more sophisticated in managing your orders there. So, all right there, Martin, there's kind of the short version there. I tried to keep it as short as I could, but when it comes to talking about BlackBird, there's a lot in it there. So, and Martin, if you'd like to learn more about BlackBird, there's already a bunch of workshop videos up there. The first workshop videos really go through and talk about the management buttons here in detail, and then it also talks about using the trade signals here. So you could use a Bloodhound signal, as your trade signal to fire off trades, or you could use someone else's indicator. Like Indicator Warehouse has their DTS trading system, and you could plug their indicators into BlackBird and use their trade signals. One of our, let's see, who is it? LTS, Lucrum Trading Systems, also has an indicator with trade signals that you can, plug right into BlackBird. Essentially turning BlackBird into a full automated trade manager for you. So, if you want to take a look at some videos to kind of see how in depth BlackBird gets, You could just go to the help and then click on documentation. Actually, not the documentation. We're going to go, see, over to support, and in the BlackBird area, if you go into the training workshops, there we go. So if you go in these training workshops, and if we scroll down, we'll see the BlackBird workshop recordings right there. And if we scroll all the way down the bottom and take a look at the first recordings here, so the first one here is the chart panels, which is basically the chart panels or the docking panels is BlackBird's interface. Let me pull up a picture. Here you go. So this interface, right? These are the chart panels, the docking panels. So these are called panels because you can move them around. You can move them anywhere you want on your computer. They don't have to be attached to the chart if you don't want them to. They can float. They can float anywhere around on your screen. But anyways, these are called the chart panels. So the first video is just an overview of basically BlackBird's menu system. And then second video here is how to use trade signals and how to use an indicator, to set your stop loss price. And then third video, the management settings buttons. So right here, you can see it says management settings right there in light gray. So that's a video on these buttons here. So there you go. So there's, a lot you can go through and, learn to see if BlackBird's right for you. And then the fourth video here is the order sets, how to set up the order sets here, right? So these are the OCO order sets. So I guess, Martin, you're asking, is BlackBird good for back testing? And yes, let's open up BlackBird again here. Actually, let me just turn BlackBird on here. Let's remove this and let's enable BlackBird. There we go. All right. So, BlackBird can definitely test more complex order sets. So let's say, let's say you want to trade a 3 profit target, a 3 profit target order, and BlackBird of course will allow you to do that, right? Whereas Raven only has 1 order set, right, or 1 profit target that you can test. But BlackBird allows you to create as many order sets as you wish, right? So basically you can backtest as many profit targets as you'd like to. And of course, you have the advanced stop loss management, so you can backtest your stop losses there as well, advanced stop losses. So yeah, so with BlackBird, you'll definitely get more precise backtesting than you would with Raven, if you're using multiple profit targets and more advanced stop loss trailing, things like that. So let's see, Martin's asking, so with the stop loss first, that becomes a trailing after break even? Yes. So, well, the pre-built one does, yes. So let me explain here. So let's just create an order. So with the stop loss, this pre-built one. So this is just kind of a quick list here of some common simple pre-built stop losses, right? Just to kind of get you started. Or for a lot of people, this might be all they need, So, a lot of people will trade with either just a flat, fixed 10-tick profit target, or even if you're not using 10 ticks, right, you could go in here very quickly just adjust it, to a 15 tick stop loss if that's what you're using, right? So these are just simple quick lists to get you going. But this quick list right down here, this 10 tick trailing with break even. Yeah, so once the break even plus 1, once that happens, then it will start trailing afterwards. There. So if we take a look at this, so the initial placement of the stop loss is just 10 ticks, right? It's 10 ticks, 10 ticks away from our entry price, right? So the way we calculate the way you calculate a stop loss, right, is you take your entry price, and then you, so for a long trade, so remember, we're in the long trade here. We're looking at long trades versus short trades. So if you're taking on a long trade, you take the entry price and you subtract X number of ticks, right? So in this case, 10 ticks. All right, and that is how you calculate your stop loss. If you're in a short trade, then you add, a positive 10 ticks to your entry price to put your stop loss, above, right? So the initial placement, is where you define where does your stop loss go initially. How far away do you need to set your stop loss when you first get into a trade? All right, so initial placement is when you first get into the trade. And then in the trailing actions tab, that's where we can define our trailing rules here. And so the trailing rule that we have is we're going to wait. So this break even. So we can see it's a break even plus 1 at 10 ticks. So right. So we're going to wait. So we have a delay, and we're waiting for 10 ticks in profit. Right. So once the market moves in the direction of our trade, then that means we get. Right, that means we're going to have 10 ticks in profit. Now we're not using any kind of triggering condition. And then, so once the market moves 10 ticks in the direction of our trade, so we have 10 ticks in profit, then the next step is the action takes place. And the action is going to move our stop loss. So the action tells BlackBird where to move your stop loss to, right? So you can see it says move to. So we're going to move the stop loss to the last price minus 10 ticks. So let's open this up here. So what we're doing here is, so once we've achieved 10 ticks in profit, then what we do is you take the last price, right? So the last price is going to have that 10 ticks in profit, and then we're going to take the last price and subtract 10 ticks to it. So that basically moves it to your break even there. And then when the market keeps moving in the right direction, when the market keeps moving in the direction of your trade, this action is constantly going to be taking the last price, subtracting 10 ticks. And so that's what defines a 10 tick trailing stop loss. Right? A 10 tick trailing stop loss is when you take the last price and you keep subtracting 10 ticks and you move your stop loss to that price here. And so what does that is the repeat section here. So we're going to keep repeating this trailing rule indefinitely. So and we're going to repeat every 1 tick in direction. Right? So whenever the market moves 1 tick in the direction of our trade, so if we're in a long trade, every time the market moves 1 tick, upwards for a long trade, right? When the market moves up, that's in the direction of a long trade. So whenever the market moves one tick, upwards for a long trade, then this trailing rule gets repeated, right? So in other words, the action just keeps getting repeated for every one tick the market moves in the direction of our trade, right? So this repeat is kind of what keeps this 10 tick trailing rule constantly calculating or constantly trailing, right? So in other words, let's say if we had no repeat. So if we turned our repeat off, that means this trailing rule would only happen one time, right? There's no repeat anymore. This trailing rule is not going to repeat. It's just going to happen one time. So if we turn it off, what that means is basically this just becomes a break even. It's just a simple break even rule now. So there's no trailing behind it because this rule is not, so the action is not going to repeat anymore. This action only happens one time if we turn the repeat off. But when we turn the repeat on, when we turn this repeat on, to say indefinitely, then that's what kind of turns this action into a trailing action, right? So trailing means that you keep on moving your stop loss, tick by tick by tick, and this repeat is what keeps calculating every tick there. So, all right. Anyways, there's kind of a summary there of kind of a simple introduction into trailing rules there for you. So, all right. Let's see. But the videos I had showed you earlier. Here we go. This fourth video here goes in depth into the trailing rules. Goes a lot further in depth into the trailing rules. Once you're ready to get into the trailing rule kind of component of BlackBird, this video here will cover a lot more. Also, I'm sure that there's several other, let's see. Yeah, there's several other videos here. Like here's another way of how to set a trailing stop to the low of the prior bar, right? So there's kind of another lesson there on using trailing rules there to move your stop loss. Actually, that's a trailing stop. That's not a stop loss. That's a stop entry. Sorry. Actually, this one's trailing your stop entry, not your stop loss. Here's a little more advanced topic on setting up stop loss trailing rules. Right. So someone wanted to have a different trailing rule for long trades versus short trades. So a little advanced topic on stop loss management there, or setting up a stop loss trailing rule. Anyways, just kind of look through here and you'll find all kinds of examples. And if you don't see an example here of what you want to do, then that's what these workshops are for here. So, okay, good question here. So, with BlackBird, in some cases, we've kind of been able to mix and match, calculating stop losses on a tick by tick versus bar by bar, right? So, okay, so Jeff's question is, based on the calculate on bar close NinjaTrader setting, calculate on bar close, how does that affect the trailing rules? How does that affect, in particular, how would that affect the stop loss trailing rules here? So let's kind of back up here. So what we're talking about is if we go into our strategy window and if we take a look at BlackBird, so this setting here, right, this NinjaTrader setting, this calculate on bar close, whether it's set to true or false, right? So when it's set to true, normally what that means is that things only calculate when the bar closes. So nothing gets calculated while the bar is building or on a tick-by-tick basis. So the general rule of thumb is that this calculate on bar close applies to indicators that you're using inside of BlackBird. So for example, if you're using Bloodhound inside of BlackBird, then Bloodhound will only operate, will operate with calculate on bar close set to true. In other words, Bloodhound can only fire off signals. It doesn't matter if it's a trade signal or if it's some other kind of secondary signal that controls your stop losses or maybe moves your profit targets around, right? In any case, it doesn't matter, but Bloodhound will only calculate when the bar closes if this is set to true, right? So basically, Bloodhound follows this rule. So this calculate on bar setting, it gets transferred down to Bloodhound. But this setting, the calculate on bar close setting, it gets transferred to all indicators that you may be using in BlackBird. So another example. Let's say you're using the ANA super trend to control your stop loss. So if this calculate on bar close is set to true, then that means the ANA super trend also has calculate on bar close set to true. So your stop loss is only going to get updated when the bar closes, and because that's when the ANA super trend gets updated when the bar closes. All right. So if you set this to false, then your ANA super trend would get updated in real time, and therefore your stop loss would get updated in real time as well. All right, so there are no, there's no exceptions to that, but there are some stop loss management that do not use indicators. And so regardless of what calculate on bar close is set to, so calculate on bar close could be set to true or false. It won't affect your stop loss rules if you're not using an indicator. So let me give you an example here. So let's just use this simple 10-tick trailing here. And no, actually, let me use this 10-tick with the break even here. Yeah, let's use this one instead. All right, now this trailing rule does not use any indicators. So this trailing rule is going to update on a tick-by-tick basis because there's no indicators involved. So there's nothing in this trailing rule that is affected by the calculate on bar close setting. Right, so this initial delay is just counting ticks. And so with calculate on bar close set to true, this is still going to calculate on a tick-by-tick movement. And if we look at the repeat, our repeat is set to ticks, right? So we're using ticks in the repeat. So on a tick-by-tick movement, this rule is going to repeat on a tick-by-tick movement. Here. Now, if let's say if I took my action let's say I took my action, and instead of using, the last price, if I change my action to use an indicator value, so let's say I'm trailing my stop loss off of the SMA, well, the SMA is an indicator. So, boom, what happens? Well, the indicator is only going to update according to BlackBird's calculate on bar close setting, right? So if BlackBird is set to calculate on bar close true, then this trailing rule will not update until the SMA updates, and the SMA has to wait for the bar to close. Right. So again, any indicator used in your trailing rule follows what BlackBird's calculate on bar close is set to. So if you wanted to, if you wanted your stop loss to trail the SMA, in real time on a tick by tick basis, you would have to set BlackBird to calculate on bar close false. Right, that's the only way that you can get indicators to update in real time. Right, but again, so since this trailing rule uses no indicators, this trailing rule will update on a tick by tick basis. All right, so again, just to kind of repeat, indicators being used inside of BlackBird. An indicator used anywhere inside of BlackBird has to follow that calculate on bar close setting, right? That is a hard-coded reality controlled by NinjaTrader. There's no way to escape that reality. There's no way to make an exception to that calculate on bar close set. That is something that is locked inside a NinjaTrader, and there's no way to make any exceptions to that. So, yep. So there you go, Jeff. That's kind of as best I can explain it there. So, all right. So we have another question here, a different question. So let's see. All right. So Jeff would like to see an example of running two BlackBird strategies simultaneously on one 15-minute chart and one on a 5-minute chart. All right. So I guess on the same instrument. Really, there really is no conflict, and so there really is nothing for Ninja to manage or deal with. Basically, the exchange takes care of that. So let's pull up another chart. All right, so we've got two different charts here, 5-minute, and I've got a range chart. And get BlackBird up. And let me just build a quick order set here. Okay. All right, I've got BlackBird 2, and I've got BlackBird number 1. Let me just check the orders. Let me, I guess I hit the cancel button. All right, let me define another order set here real quickly. All right, I've got two BlackBirds. And so let's see, on the left here, let's go long. And so if we look, if we look at Ninja's position, right, we've got one long order here. And then if I go short So on the other BlackBird here, let me shrink this up a little bit. If we go short, so I got one BlackBird long, one BlackBird short, and of course, what does Ninja show? Well, at the exchange, you're flat, right? You're simply flat at the exchange. And so that's all that Ninja does, is it just shows you what your reality is at the exchange. So, right? And let's see, I'm connected to real-time data, so I can't control the market. But let's see here. Let's see, we're on oil. And, gosh, yeah, oil is going to be moving a little slow. Hold on. All right, let's exit this and let me switch over to a simulated data feed. All right, let's get these Blackbirds turned back on. Okay, great. So we'll go long on the left and we'll go short on the right. And so I'll move the market up. I'll just move the market up. So, right, so one contract long, one contract short. So our position is flat, right? Position's flat. And if we look at the strategies, Ninja's going to calculate what our profit and loss is per strategy separately, right? So one's going to be losing and one's going to be making money. And now one of them closed out, right? So our short position closed out. So now we're long again. So we're net one long again. So as soon as one of the positions closes out, then you're back into a trade again. Or well, basically your net, your net long or short in some direction there. All right. And if we look at the strategies, again, Ninja tracks the strategies separately on their P&L. So, and if we look at our accounts, so yeah, so there we go. So Ninja's saying we realized an $80 profit. So, I'm not sure why that is. The strategies say that I should have realized a $100 profit. I don't know. I'm not sure why Ninja's account shows something different. Unless this is maybe a daily. No, I haven't executed any trades prior. Oh wait, yeah, we did. No, I did not. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, but in any account, this is something for Ninja to answer why the realized are different, but yeah. So you can look at your account, and see what your realized is, or you can look at the individual strategies here and take a look. So, and of course, you could also look at BlackBird's performance metrics there, so we can see the short lost $100, right, as Ninja shows, and then the other BlackBird over here that made a profit, right, it's showing a profit of $200, right, which matches with the control center as well there. So let's see, there was no BlackBird file today. Yeah, today was just kind of generalized questions. All right, guys. Yeah, doesn't look like you guys have any more questions. So with that, gentlemen, I'll say have a good weekend, and I hope to see you guys next week. All right, keep those questions coming. All right, and always, as always, you know, you can always email your questions in ahead of time as well. So just let us know you'd like to have your question answered in the workshop if you prefer. So, all right, guys, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye, guys.